So I knew the Camino would change me while I walked, but I had no idea how much it was going to keep changing me after. Hey, I'm Tracy, and even though I finished the Camino almost 2 months ago, I'm still seeing it show up in my life. Recently, I was texting with a friend I met on the trail, and we were sharing all of the changes we'd both noticed since getting back. And she said, the Camino is the gift that keeps on giving. And that line nailed it. The walking may stop in Santiago, but the transformation follows you into everyday life. In this video, I'll share the unexpected ways the Camino has kept working on me so you have a better idea of what you might experience after your own walk. The last one surprised me the most, so make sure you stick around to the end. After I finished the Camino, I continued traveling and spent about a month in Portugal before heading to India for 2 months, where I currently am. And during that time, I kept noticing small things, these moments where I handled something in a way that felt new, like the Camino had quietly reprogrammed how I respond when things aren't easy. And one of those moments happened right after I arrived in India at the ashram I'd be staying at for 3 weeks. I remember opening the door to my room and instantly thinking, this is a jail cell. It was small and dusty, and there were all these spider webs and spiders too. It was definitely not the cozy retreat vibes I had been picturing. But instead of feeling disappointed or overwhelmed, I just kind of nodded to myself, like, all right, this is what we're doing now. And that moment surprised me because the old me would have gone straight into fixing mode, asking to change rooms or looking up alternate accommodation, but I didn't go there. My brain just instantly said, it's fine, just take it one night at a time, which was the same thing I told myself over and over again on the Camino. Because on the Camino, there are nights that are rough. I'm talking cold dorms and hard beds and snoring roommates. But I learned this truth: nothing uncomfortable lasts forever. You just get through it one night at a time, one hill at a time, one blister at a time. Standing there in that ashram, I realized I'd carried that mindset back with me. That even when things aren't ideal, I don't panic. I just adjust and I trust that I'll be okay. And that trust has shaped how I move through everything since. Now, my first thought isn't, can I handle this? It's, I've done harder things before. And that knowing makes everything else in life feel more doable. I've stopped wasting so much energy fighting what's already happening. And the cool thing is, once you stop fighting what's hard, it stops feeling so hard. Another moment happened in India that made me realize how much the Camino has stayed with me. Now, before coming here, I'll be honest, I was very, very nervous. I'd heard so many stories about how dangerous it could be, and I knew the sensory overload would be very intense for me. And part of me worried I'd spend the entire time on edge, but I really didn't. From the first week, I felt surprisingly at ease. That same steady calm I'd built up on the Camino just kind of showed up. The part of me that used to overthink or need control was quieter, and I just trusted myself to handle whatever came next. It hit me the most one night when I was walking back from Tapawan, which is about a mile from where I was staying, and it was dark and there's no sidewalk, so I'm walking on the side of the road while cars and scooters and rickshaws are all zooming past and honking. They're all weaving in traffic. There's people and cows and dogs everywhere. And I realized I'm fine. I'm not scared and I'm not rushing to get away. I'm just walking. Old me would have been tense and checking over my shoulder or trying to find a ride back, but this version of me felt grounded and even confident in the middle of all that chaos. And I knew exactly where that came from because on the Camino, you walk through uncertainty every day. You get lost, you get rained on, or you walk alone for miles. But somewhere along the way, you stop needing to feel safe before you move forward. You trust that you'll figure it out. And that's what that night in Tapawan was for me. The Camino didn't just teach me to keep walking, it taught me to trust myself while I do. Now, something else that stayed with me since the Camino is how much I actually walk. Not unusual for me to do 6 or 8 or even 10 miles in a day now. And it's not because I'm training or trying to hit a goal, just because it feels natural. My body just wants to move. Now I'll check the map, and if something is a couple miles away, I'll just walk there. And now here in Goa, I start my mornings with a long walk on the beach. It's the same rhythm, just a different path. The Camino changed what walking means to me. It's not effort anymore. It's peace. It's how I come back to myself. Another thing that stayed with me since the Camino is how naturally connection happens now. Now, I've always cared about people and I've always wanted them to feel included, but the Camino has made me quicker to act on that feeling instead of just noticing it. I remember one afternoon on the trail, I was sitting down to rest when an older man came and sat beside me. And English wasn't his first language, but we ended up having a really lovely conversation. And at one point he said, you know what I love about the Camino? That I can just come and sit next to you and talk and you don't think I'm weird. And he was right, because if someone just walked up and sat beside me back home, I probably would have felt uncomfortable or annoyed. Like, there are 100 other spots. Why are you sitting next to me? But on the Camino, that's not how it works. People just show up and it doesn't feel strange because on the trail, no one's a stranger for long. And that kind of openness is something I've carried with me. At the ashram I'm staying at now, there was a woman sitting alone at lunch one day, and she was new, and I knew how hard it could be joining a group that's already formed. So I just invited her to sit with us. And she did, and we ended up talking for a while, and it was such an easy human moment. On the Camino, those moments happen naturally every day. Someone slows their pace so you don't have to walk alone, or someone shares their snacks, or someone checks on you when you look tired. And it reminded me how simple connection really is when you lead with kindness. Now, another thing that stayed with me since the Camino is how little I actually need. On the trail, you carry everything on your back, every ounce counts. And somewhere along the way, I stopped craving more. I stopped thinking about what I didn't have and started appreciating what I did. And that has carried into my life since. Even now, living out of a suitcase, I don't really feel deprived. I rewear the same clothes all the time now and don't really think about it. I don't stress about what to wear or what I don't have. I just use what's with me and it's enough. Because once you've lived with so little and still felt content, you stop believing that more automatically means better. The Camino taught me that simplicity isn't something that you give up, it's something that you gain. Another change that surprised me since the Camino is how much more comfortable I've become in my own skin. Before the walk, I never wanted anyone to see me without makeup, and definitely not on camera. But on the Camino, no one really cares what you look like. You wake up, you pull on the same clothes, throw your hair in a ponytail, and start walking. Everyone's just focused on the journey. And somewhere in that, you stop feeling like you need to look a certain way. Since then, that's carried over. Now I'll post on Instagram sometimes without makeup, and it feels completely normal. I'm learning to like my face the way it is. And it's not that I never wear makeup, I just don't need it to feel like myself anymore. The Camino taught me that confidence doesn't always look polished. Sometimes it's just being okay with being seen exactly as you are. Something else the Camino gave me is this sense of magic that hasn't gone away. On the trail, I was always looking for signs and not just the yellow arrows, but little reminders that I was on the right path. And the thing is, I always found them. Sometimes it was a heart shaped rock or a cat crossing my path at just the right moment. Other times it was a feather or a song coming on or a word painted on the wall that felt like it was meant for me. It was like the Camino had its own way of saying, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And that hasn't stopped since. Before my flight to Goa from Rishikesh, I was feeling nervous about the trip, but right there in the airport, out of nowhere, a cat showed up. And then its kitten. And it just felt like the sweetest kind of reassurance I could have asked for. Like the Camino never really ends, it just starts showing up in new ways, like little winks from the universe reminding you that the path never really stops. Now, the last way the Camino has kept showing up, and this is the one that has surprised me the most, is in how I experience endings. On the trail, you get used to them. You walk beside someone maybe for a day or a week, and you share stories and meals and inside jokes, and then one morning they're just gone. They moved ahead, or you did, and there's no big goodbye, but just an understanding that your paths have split. And at first that felt hard, but somewhere along the way it started to feel okay because you realize the connection didn't disappear. It just lives in that moment that you shared. And that feeling has stayed with me. I don't hold as tightly now. When something ends, I can appreciate it for what it was without needing to turn it into something more. And that has come in handy while I've been traveling. Now, not every friendship has to become forever, and not every spark has to become a story. Sometimes it's enough to meet someone and share a few moments and keep walking. Like a cat you stop to pet on the trail. You enjoy the moment, you smile, and then you both move on your way. And somehow that still feels complete. It's wild how much the Camino keeps working on you long after you've stopped walking. That friend who said it's the gift that keeps on giving, she was right. And honestly, I hope it never stops. If you're planning your own Camino, you should check out my packing list video next. It'll save you some trial and error on what to bring and what to skip. Thanks so much for watching, and buen Camino.